Well, we're back on Leech Lake, and it warmed up, but boy, the wind cranked up. I mean, that wind's probably blowing 15, 20 miles an hour, but it's warming up. I mean, yesterday it was well below zero, and so we've been hunkering down the fish houses. I think we're going to try to take advantage of this warmer weather here today and just fish outside and move around a little bit. But we're up here for perch. The perch numbers have really come back on Leech Lake here in recent years, and we're with one of the best anglers on this lake, Chuck Hasse. Guides out here in the summertime, runs rental houses out here in the wintertime, and so it's going to be fun to pick Chuck's brain as far as just teaching and educating the nuances of finding and catching fish on Leech Lake.
So we're gonna start off here. These perch out here, it's kind of a day-to-day basis. They like to roam. There's a lot of pike in the area, a lot of predator fish that push these schools around. So they almost swim hot laps out here. So each day can be a little different. We're gonna start here close to shore and probably work our way out towards the middle of the lake. Right now we're in the Goose Island area, so we'll probably end up somewhere right around Goose later in the day if we don't find anything up close here.
The thing to remember about these perch are always on the move. It's almost like they have attention deficit disorder in the sense that these fish never stop. And so, when you get these fish underneath you, you catch a fish, you want to get right back down to those fish. And if you stay out of the water for very long, those fish are going to move on, and so that kind of dictates your overall fishing strategy in the sense that most of the time, if you're going to catch perch, you got to move to try to keep on fish. But since these perch do move so much, you can also sit in a spot and just run traffic as well. And so so you'll see people out in these fish houses. It seems like everybody's catching some fish, but it feels like if you work a little harder at it, you're going to catch a few more, you're going to catch bigger fish. But that's the whole key, is there's these gradual sand flats and basins out here, just these big flats, and these fish, it's like they never stop moving. Oh, look at that one.
That's a good
beauty.
one.
And I don't know, because it's so cold and windy, I'm just using this Pinhead Pro without any bait. Just figure if I'm going to fish with gloves on all day, fish outside, that's an easy bait to fish with because you don't have to worry about rebaiting it. But that is a gorgeous perch right there. Oh. This is maybe the part of fishing that doesn't get stressed enough. We're just kind of on a scouting mission. I mean, this is what Chuck does every day. Basically, runs around and looks for these perch so that way he can move fish houses over these spots. But it's kind of a deal where you just have to sample a lot of water, and you're gonna here's the challenge: you're gonna see fish almost everywhere. I mean, everywhere we've gone, we've caught what you'd call stunted small perch. These bigger fish are fleeting. They're going to be right with the small fish a lot of times, and so sometimes there's a deal where you just find zones that for whatever reason there's just some bigger fish, and so you gotta be willing to move sometimes.
Well, so far we've a lot of this process is eliminating water, and by that I mean fishing multiple spots and finding a lot of area where there's smaller perch. There's life, but it's just not quite what we're looking for. And then we'll find these smaller areas and kind of hone in on them once we find a little better quality. And usually once you start finding the 9s and 10s, eventually you're going to get into the 11s and 12s. And we'll occasionally see a fish over 13 out here. I wouldn't say it's rare, but it's not too common. But that 13-inch mark is kind of where it tops off at. And most people are looking for a healthy number of fish in that 9.5 to 11.5 range. That's what most people are eating. But we're starting to hone in on kind of a little deeper water area here where we've seen a little better action. So we're just going to keep pounding on it here and see if one of those waves comes through eventually where we can really get into them.
You know, we talked about big moves finding fish and small moves catching fish earlier. You know, we were making, big moves, just checking a contour, checking a bump, just taking a 10,000-foot view. Now that we're starting to see a few nicer fish, Chuck's going to rip some holes through here where we start making the small moves. And we just kind of rotate around where you're welcome out in the hole, just move 20, 30 yards and just fish some fresh water here. So that's our strategy here right now. Starting to hone in on them here a little bit.
One of the things about the perch population out here is if you've got kids, it's constant action. We see it all the time in our rentals. We've got dad and young kids or grandpa and young kids, and as long as those kids are reeling something in, it doesn't matter if they're 3 inches, 10 inches, 7 inches, as long as they're having that constant action, it's keeping their attention span. So for us, we were targeting the bigger ones today. Those are the more predator type, I guess you would say, perch. And we found a few of those, and as we move through the season here, that bite's only going to get better and better. And right now, most of these houses out here and most of these people are targeting perch for that reason. There we go. There's Daddy. Man, he inhaled that spoon. And I'm fishing with a minnow head, and it doesn't really seem to matter all that much when these bigger ones come through. They're looking for a meal, so a lot of times you see them on the electronics, and these bigger perch, they'll charge it harder than a 22-inch walleye. They're definitely aggressive. They're almost more like a predator type fish, more like a walleye or a northern pike out here. Those big ones, they cruise around looking for a meal, and once you kind of get into them, I can still see them on my screen here. You can get into a fair number of them, but sometimes it's a short little window where they're coming through, and as long as you keep feeding them, they'll stick around. So I'm going to go ahead and drop right back down and see if I can't get another one similar size. Well, we just checked into a new spot here, and just wanted to take a minute here and show you what we're using for equipment today. Jason and I have been using basically the same setup the entire time here. I've been using the dead meat. This is a 36 medium, and it's just kind of got a sanded down tip here. We're not using spring bobbers or anything for bite detection. Most of these perch are big enough that you can either watch your rod tip, or we're using super light line today. That's pretty common in these lakes, these clear lakes in northern Minnesota that have zebra mussels, as everything's kind of comes down to downsizing, less visibility in your line. And that's really allowing for this Leech ribbon spoon here, and I've just got a plastic on it now. We've been going back and forth between minnow heads, full minnows, and plastics, but it hasn't really made a ton of difference. But this light line and this light spoon just kind of flutters and just falls nice and slow down to these perch. Sometimes even having a little bit bigger profile here, where we're banging it on the bottom in these mud areas just to try to stir things up a little bit and grab some fish's attention. So again, nothing too crazy as far as a setup. We're just using the Vexilar FL28s and the 38s here as far as flashers, and we just kind of been sticking with what's working. So we're just going to keep doing that and keep moving around little by little.
Well, I think it's time to drill some more holes. One thing I like to do, if you're gonna go grab a sandwich, go grab your auger, whatever it is, just keep your rod in the water, but hang it high. these fish are coming through on the bottom, you know, hang at 5-6 feet, you know, just use your rod holder on your Vexilar. But it's crazy where you go drill some holes, go do something. Sometimes you come back and you get lucky in the sense there might be a couple of fish hanging below that jig. But if you have your line out of the water, if you have your jig hanging on the bottom or close to the bottom, it doesn't seem like it pulls fish in, but sometimes that jig will just hang there and those fish will be just right up looking at it. And so I've caught a lot of fish over the years just getting lucky that way. You know, I can remember, you know, coming out here and fishing for perch, you know, 20, 25 years ago when, you know, we'd come out here and fish with Al Moss at the time. And what was interesting is it seemed like when we used to come out here years ago, we caught a lot more fish shallow, you know, where we'd be fishing anywhere from say 3 to 7, 8 feet of water. 8 feet of water was deep. You know, we spent all of our time, you know, around 5 feet deep. And, you know, basically the same areas, you know, these big coral flats, big sand flats. You know, these perch populations, they do seem to cycle, you know, but it seems like the perch are coming back. But what's different now is that, you know, these people are spending a lot of time on Leech Lake. They're finding fish a lot deeper than what we used to, you know, in that 14, 15, 16 foot range. You know, were those fish out there before and nobody knew about them? I don't know. But that's definitely a trend that I'm noticing, that we're seeing, is that people are starting to catch a lot more perch in deeper water on Leech Lake.
Good color on that one. You can see they've been in the mud. Must be a little bit of a muddy bottom down there now. A lot of times that's where you'll find the bugs and the things that they feed on will hatch out of that mud, and that can be a good area. It's loaded down there now. They're coming up. Oh my God. A little better there. You can see when they're aggressive, I mean, he's got that pretty deep in there. That usually means they like it.
There we go. There's a nice perch. All right. It's kind of a deal. You want to get right back down there. I mean, it's a race. When you get them underneath you and they're wound up, it's up, down. You don't play around. Get back down as quick as you can. There we go. Ah ha ha. And why the lure of perch? Tell you what, in my opinion, this is one of the best eating fish on the planet. If you love to eat fish, doesn't get any better. If you love the ups and downs of fishing, the highs and lows, you can be a zero and drill one hole, catch 20 fish in a row, and all of a sudden be the hero. That's what people love about perch fishing.
Oh man, here he comes. Feels like another decent one. Yeah, so we're just bouncing around a little bit. We seem to find 1 or 2 good ones each time we move a little ways. We've kind of gotten into an area here where it's a little more of a muddy bottom, and it seems to be holding a few bigger fish where you know, in years past we concentrated on a lot of sand to weed or chargrass transition areas, and the rusty crayfish have kind of decimated a lot of that structure. And now with the zebra mussels, the water's a little clearer and it seems to be just pushing everything a little bit deeper. So we're we're actually targeting these perch now in a little bit deeper areas out here that we never used to fish. And what we're finding is their diet's slowly changing, so they're eating more things out in the mud. It seems to be, you know, the most productive areas now, which is just a classic example of how invasives can kind of slowly over time change things throughout the lake, almost the butterfly effect. You know, the zooplankton will start to filter out slowly, which is going to change areas where the bait typically hangs out. When the bait changes, the fish change. So it's a lot of using your electronics and just the willingness to adapt and try new things. And then a lot of it comes down to, like we talked about, just eliminating dead areas and finding new productive water. And that's what we've been doing a lot of today.
Oh, here we got one coming in hot. There we go. All right. Boy, some of these fish really, really charge it. They come flying in. There we go. Oh, this is a good one. This is a good one. Oh yeah, look at that. One of the funnest fish that swims right there. Open up. Ah. Gorgeous. You know, and a couple things to maybe point out. I mean, you know, we're sorting through fish. I mean, there's small fish, big fish, medium fish. You know, these fish just come through in just these packs. And a couple things, you know, you can fish really aggressively to try to just keep your presentation away from the small fish. And the other thing we're doing is we're sometimes lifting these lures way up off the bottom to try to get away from the small fish. You'll see these small fish come up off the bottom. They'll come up, they'll dart right back down. They don't like to be up and exposed over the abyss. You know, they're used to running for their lives from bigger fish, but these bigger perch, you know, they've got a whole different attitude. They don't have a problem coming up off the bottom. And so that's one way that we can kind of sort through the different sizes of fish that we encounter out here.
You know, I've been lucky enough to make a career out of this, and what I love about this area is just the opportunities that this lake provides. We find fish all over the lake on different structures: rocks, weed, sand, gravel transition areas, milfoil transition areas. Literally, you can fish a different presentation just by moving to a different part of the lake. It doesn't really matter what you want to target. There's an opportunity for everyone out here. So I think that's one of the things that's just a natural draw to this area from anglers all over the upper Midwest and all over the country, really. So we're pretty lucky to have such a special gem right in the heart of north central Minnesota here.
Oh, that is a beautiful perch. The hook's about ready to pop right up, but look at that. That's a jumbo. Fish's lucky day. Get back down there. Yeah, there's some. Leech Lake has got a lot of history, you know, as far as perch through the ice. I mean, this has always been one of the better perch fisheries in Minnesota. Oh, we got one coming in here. Oh yeah, that's a good one. Oh yeah. I'm still using this Pinhead Pro without any bait on it. It'd be a great eater. Biggest thing is, you just want to fish baits that are fast. You want to be able to get up and get down. Oh, I really got him down there now, it's just boiling. Oh, that one slacklined me. Chuck just got a good one. Look at that. That's a different way to catch one.
That's a good one. Get his mouth open here so you can, I like when they have the big old bucket mouth on there. It's good for just inhaling that whole spoon. That's a good healthy one right there. We'll go ahead and let that one go.
Probably the biggest takeaway that I've had from the day is just how aggressive these fish can be. And, it's like with the presentation, a lot of times, I was using a pinhead pro all day, which I was using that without bait. Chuck was using a ribbon flutter spoon, a lot of times with no bait. And it seems like, you get a handful of fish underneath and you get those fish competing against each other and they're racing up off the bottom and they're trying to eat. You don't necessarily have to have any bait whatsoever on your hook. You can fish aggressively. If one fish comes up and doesn't want to bite, you just keep that fish around so that 2 or 3, 4 fish come up. But it seems like these fish are aggressive and they want to chase, and once we got comfortable with that and confident with that, where we weren't running around back and forth, worrying about a minnow bucket, I feel like the efficiencies improved dramatically. And I feel like our catch rate went up once we got some confidence with just fishing without any bait.